So clearly we have a job on rebuilding these. So Mr. Christopher has been shopping. We have lots of new parts. We have drive shafts, left and right, nicely rebuilt and brand new. A lot easier than rebuilding these ones on the bench, given the state of this bearing and however long that's been open and exposed. It's probably not worth rebuilding those. So that should be nice and easy to refit. We've got new springs, we've got new brake lines, because as I showed you, I think before, it looks like these have started to perish, so they've got to go. And we've got new drop links, because I like to cut those off because they're horrible. And I brought from my workshop some spring compressors and, as you do, some spare headlights I happen to find lying around. So we can do most of the jobs on this car. However, what we can't get until next week is new bump stops for the top of here and new gaiters to go on these shocks, which is a bit of a problem because we've got to strip them all down to get the spring caps and new springs and top bearings on. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to strip them all the way down. We're going to put all the kit back on and just do it up finger tight, and then when the new parts arrive next week, it'll be nice and easy to disassemble them, put the new bump stops and the new gaiters on, and then we can properly reassemble it, refit it to the car. So best start the strip down. Okay, so we've got the strut towers stripped down. You can see the state of these is horrendous. What's interesting is the spring cap underneath here sits underneath the bearing and holds the spring, and this rotates to allow your steering. That's what should happen anyway. The steering was particularly notchy on this car, and we found out why. So this little extra piece came off the top of the strut when we stripped it down. Turns out that's actually this piece from in here, which, because this bearing has seized solid, has actually been rotating inside the bearing here and slowly worn a nice little hole off to one side. It's just mind-boggling that it's got to that state, but it shows you how strong the power steering is. So we're now going to rebuild the strut towers. Once we've managed to cut off the remnants of the drop links here. But as I said in the previous video, we're not going to be able to put them back on the car because we're still waiting for new bump stops and gaiters to arrive. So we'll put it together so it's secure, and then all we need to do is recompress the springs next time, take the top caps off, slot on the bump stop and the gaiter, and we're away. So let's get on with it. Working off camera a bit to make some progress, and we have got drive shafts back in. I can confirm it is a lot quicker to refit drive shafts than it is to sit on the bench and rebuild them, so that's been a godsend. So you'll see now the hubs are propped up with cable ties just to stop this flopping forward, because when it does, it has a tendency to pull that CV joint apart. So that's going to stay like that until we've got the last bit for the struts, and then same again on this side. So this is the longer shaft on the driver's side that's got a half shaft. So just like the 850, there's a bearing cap underneath there. So once the drive shaft is in the gearbox, bearing cap goes on, pair of 12mm bolts, and then back through the hub. And then same affair here. So just propped it up with a cable tie until we've got the last bits for the uprights. In the meantime, we've got one of the struts rebuilt. So we put it all together just so that we can house all the parts, I guess, and it's ready for when the new covers and bump stops arrive. So we can quite easily then recompress these, so they're held in position by the top caps here. So we can recompress that very quickly, leave the compression springs on rather than to take them all off again, slot on the new covers, put them back on, put the top caps on, release the spring compressors, and those will be ready to go back in the car next week when the parts arrive. So I'm going to quickly do the second one, and then we're on to a different job until the parts arrive. So we've made a right old mess of this in one day, but hopefully it'll be back together soon. Okay, so last job of the day is to replace the headlights. So we have these second-hand units that we happen to have kicking around, as you do. I've already fitted one, as you can see over here. So time to fit this one. There's a number of connectors for the motors and the different headlights, along with a massive snake of wiring. But it should be a fairly easy fit, and bolt it all in around the top. Okay, we are back working on the V70, and we've finally got the bump stops and the gaiters for the shocks. So it's all back together now. This is the second one we've just done. We finally got the remnants of the dreaded drop links off. We had to resort to oxyacetylene to get those off, but now they're off, so it can all go back together on the car. Right, just quickly before it starts raining, so new bolts for the suspension. These are the original ones. They're not that expensive from Volvo. I'll stick the price in the description. These are the part numbers. Lessons learned, obviously, from the 850 job is always replace these because they do stretch. Although the ones in the V70 are significantly more meaty, they don't look like they have stretched, but I'm not taking any chances. So new ones in, and ta-da! Strut is reinstalled with all the nice new bits and the nice new bolts. Next thing is to deal with the brake lines, but first we've got to do the other side. Okay, so second one is back in, and we've also put the ABS cables and threaded them back up and plugged them back in the top here. So they had to come out because they were in the way of the strut when we were taking it out, and we didn't want to damage the cables. So yeah, we're all ready now for the next job, which is the brake lines, but for now it's got to go back on the deck so that another car can come in its space. So, well, it hasn't got any drop links on it, but we'll do those next time as well. It's only going to be parked across the yard. Next time on V70 Rescue, we're going to get onto the brake lines, drop links, and then checking for some of the other issues that may be lurking in the engine bay. Hey, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Bye for now.